My girlfriend said we were never serious while holding the flowers he sent to her office. For a second I honestly thought she was joking. We were standing in the foyer of her building, people weaving around us with lanyards and keep cups, and she just dropped it like she was commenting on the weather. In one hand she had her laptop bag, in the other this ridiculous, over-the-top bouquet, long-stemmed roses and lilies, all wrapped in white paper with a black ribbon. The card was still tucked into the top. I could see the edge of the handwriting from where I stood. My heart was jackhammering so hard I could feel it in my gums. "Sorry, what?" I said. I could hear how thin my voice sounded, like it was coming from the bottom of a tunnel. I shifted the takeaway bag in my hand because suddenly I didn't know what to do with my arms. I'd come to surprise her with tie and a lift home. I thought it would be one of those cute moments you see in montage scenes in movies. Instead, I was standing under fluorescent lights, watching my girlfriend clutch another guy's flowers and look at me like I'd just suggested we elope. She blew out a breath, eyes darting around the lobby like she was checking who could overhear us. "Can we not do this here, Matt?" she said, her voice that careful, professional calm she uses on cranky clients. "You're overreacting. We were never serious." It was a Thursday afternoon. I remember because I'd finished work early for once, no unexpected site meeting, no last-minute crisis from the client. I'd texted her at about 3, knocked off early. "Want a ride home?" She hadn't replied. That wasn't totally unusual. She works in marketing for a mid-sized tech company, and her phone is basically an extension of her spinal cord, but sometimes she gets sucked into meetings. Around 4:30 I thought, screw it, I'll swing by her office with food and see if she's done. It felt romantic, in a very normal suburban way. She loves that little Thai place down the road from her building. I could already hear her teasing me about being whipped as we ate noodles on her couch. Her name's Jess, we're both 29. We met 4 years ago at a mutual friend's housewarming. I was the guy assembling the IKEA table badly in the corner. She was the girl telling me I'd put the legs on backwards. She's the kind of person who always has a story, a hot take, a meme you have to see. I'm quieter, the steady one, as my mates like to joke. I work as a building estimator, basically spreadsheets and numbers, and trying to guess how much it costs to make rich people's renovation dreams come true. We'd been together just over 2 years when she said those words in the lobby. 2 years of shared Netflix profiles, toothbrushes at each other's places, arguments over who used the last of the oat milk. Not a fling, not a we've gone on a few dates and sometimes hook up. A relationship, or at least that's what I thought we were in. We didn't start out casual, or if we did, I missed the memo. On our third date she came back to mine, kicked off her shoes, looked around my tiny one-bedroom and said, "Okay, good, you have plants that are alive, that's a green flag." From there it just kept going. Brunch with her. Friends, drinks with my mates from school. That awkward dinner where she met my parents and my mum asked if she was the one in that joking not joking way, and Jess just smiled and squeezed my knee under the table. We never had a big "what are we" conversation because it felt so obvious. She introduced me as her boyfriend to people. "This is Matt," she'd say. "My boyfriend. He can't cook to save his life, but he knows all the lyrics to early 2000s emo and he laughs at my tweets, so I'm keeping him." We went away together. 3 days in Hobart the first winter we were dating, huddled in second-hand coats, sharing chips on the pier. A long weekend up the coast for my birthday where she made me a playlist and we took stupid photos in front of big rocks. She had a key to my place. I had a drawer at hers. If you'd asked me 6 months ago to rate how serious we were on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have said 7, maybe 8. We weren't moving in together yet, mostly because both our rentals were cheap and the housing market is a joke. But it was when, not if. We talked about next year maybe, after her lease was up. We talked about places we'd want to live, suburbs halfway between our jobs, maybe getting a dog. Enter Tom. I only knew him as a name at first. Tom in sales, Tom from the Sydney office who moved down, Tom who won the staff costume competition because he dressed as their CEO. He was a background character in her work stories. I pictured some loud, slightly obnoxious guy in a too-tight shirt with a Bluetooth headset. The first time I saw his face was the first time my stomach did that cold little flip. Jess and I were lying in bed scrolling one Sunday morning. She was on Instagram, doing that quick tap scrolling through stories, and I glanced over at her screen, not snooping, just bed proximity. There he was in a boomerang, tanned, gym-looking, holding up a beer at some rooftop bar with a caption. From Jess, this idiot finally moved back to Melbourne. He had that jawline you see in ads for skincare for men who don't care about skincare. His username was some combination of his name and a number. His profile pic him in a suit at a wedding. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Tom," she said like it was obvious. "I told you from work, he used to be in the Sydney office." She turned the phone slightly toward me. "He's hilarious. You'd actually get along, you have the same stupid sense of humor." I made some non-committal noise. For the next week his name came up more. Tom said the new CRM is the work of the devil. Tom almost got us banned from the pub after Friday drinks. Tom did an impression of our boss that was so accurate I nearly peed. Look, I'm not an idiot. I know my girlfriend is allowed to have male friends. I have female friends Jess has never been weird about. Hell, half my year 12 English cohort from last year still DM me essays and life updates. I've read enough stuff on Reddit to know there's a line between having boundaries and being controlling. I really didn't want to be that guy. There was just something. The way she smiled when she said his name, the way her eyes lit up telling stories that weren't that funny. I clocked it, felt a tiny prickle, and then mentally told myself to grow up. The messages started about a month after he showed up on her feed more regularly. At first it was just the normal little notification banners, his name popping up with a, "Or you free for a call?" When we were watching TV. She didn't hide it exactly, but she started tilting her phone. Way more, it's the kind of thing you notice when you live in someone's pockets, how their hands move almost before they do. One night I came over to hers after work with groceries, planning to cook. I let myself in with my key. The TV was on low in the living room, some reality show humming away. I could hear her voice from the bedroom. "Stop," she was saying, laughing in that high, flustered way. "No, shut up, you're such an idiot." I walked down the hall, still carrying the bags. She was sitting cross-legged on the bed, in leggings and an oversized hoodie, phone on speaker in front of her. Tom's voice was coming through, muffled but unmistakably male. I leaned on the doorframe. "Hey," I said. "Hi, I brought food." She jumped a little, then smiled. "Oh hey babe," she said. "Tom, I've got to go, my man is here with dinner." My man, I remember that, because it stuck in my head later when she said we were never serious. Tom said something like, "Ooh, look at you, being spoilt," and there was this little edge to his tone I didn't like. But he said bye, she hung up, and she launched into some story about how ridiculous he'd been on a client call. "Sorry we got carried away," she said, kissing me quickly on the cheek. "We were just gossiping." "It's all good," I said, even though it didn't feel all good. Over the next couple of months, there was a subtle shift in our routines. Our standing Friday night date, pizza and a movie, nothing fancy, became more flexible. "Hey, is it cool if we move to Saturday this week?" she'd text. "The team's going out for drinks and Tom's dragging us to that new bar on Flinders." "Sure," I'd reply, "have fun." I'd tell myself not to be petty. Everyone's allowed to have a social life. It's not like I was chained to the couch either. But then there was the night she didn't come home. At least, not when she said she would. She lived closer to the city than I did, so we tended to crash at hers on weekends. That Friday I'd stayed at my place because she had just a couple after-work drinks. At 11 p.m. she texted. "We're still out, might just crash at Soph's because she lives around the corner. That cool?" Soph was one of her work friends. I'd met her once or twice, she seemed fine. I replied, "Yep, no worries. Let me know when you're safely tucked in. Love you." There was no reply. I woke up at 3 a.m. and checked my phone, nothing. At 7:30 a.m. still nothing. My stomach did that sliding thing. I called her. It rang out. I texted again, "Everything okay?" At 9 a.m. she finally replied. "OMG, I'm so sorry, my phone died and I only just found my charger. I'm fine, hungover af though, coming home soon Roman 20. I tried to swallow the unease. People's phones die, people crash. Not everything is a conspiracy. That afternoon, I went over to hers with a couple of Gatorades and a bag of Maccas. She was on the couch in her dressing gown, hair in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes. "You look like death," I said, trying to keep it light. "Feel worse," she groaned, taking a fry. "Tom kept buying shots and Soph is a bad influence." "You stayed at Soph's?" I asked, as casually as I could manage. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Why?" "Just checking," I said. "You didn't text back last night." She made a face. "My phone died," she repeated. "I told you." "Right," I said, forcing a smile. "All good." The thing about lies, if that's what they are, is they sit next to you on the couch. They go grocery shopping with you. They wedge themselves in the gaps of conversations. From that weekend on, I noticed every time she mentioned Tom, every time she didn't mention where she was. It a work thing? I felt myself becoming this version of me I didn't like. Uptight, scanning for patterns, replaying things in my head. Then came the flowers. Her company had landed some huge account. I know this because she'd been coming home wired for days, talking about the pitch and the deck and the presentation that will either make us legends or get us fired. The meeting was on a Wednesday morning. Tuesday night she was at mine, running through her slides one last time, packing up and down my tiny lounge room in her socks. If they don't love you, they're idiots, I said, as she clicked through the last slide. You have to say that, she said, dropping onto the couch next to me. You're biased. Also, I haven't shaved my legs and you're still here, so your judgment is questionable. Wow, roasted in my own home, I said, really boosting my confidence there. She smiled, that soft, fond, real smile I loved. Seriously though, thanks, she said, leaning her head on my shoulder, for letting me practice this 5 times and not pretending to die halfway through. The next morning she left at 7:30 in a blazer and sneakers, hair straightened, makeup on point, nerves buzzing under her skin. I kissed her and said, "Go knock 'em dead." She texted me at 11:45, "We nailed it. They signed. I think I'm in love with our own product. Champagne in the office later, apparently." I replied, "Knew it, so proud of you. Save some pretend champagne for me." Which brings us back to me showing up with Ty on Thursday. I figured the champagne would be over by 5, maybe 5:30. Her office is one of those open-plan glassbox places. I parked in a side street, ducked into the Thai place, grabbed Pad See Ew and her favorite massaman, then walked over. The lobby was busy, people streaming out, tapping on their phones as they walked. I texted her, in the lobby, left a gap in my stomach specifically for Pad See Ew. No reply. I waited near the couches by the lift, takeaway bag getting heavy. After 10 minutes or so, the crowd thinned. That's when I saw her. She came out of the turnstiles with a small group, 2 women I recognized from her Instagram, and him. Tom, he looked like his Instagram but more, taller than I'd expected, even in a button-up with the sleeves rolled, laughing at something one of the others said. Jess had her laptop bag on one shoulder and in her other hand the bouquet. It was big enough that she had to balance it against her hip. I froze. For a second I honestly thought maybe a client had sent flowers to the whole team. There were a few other people carrying small bunches. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Then one of the women nudged Jess, nodded in my direction, and said loudly, "Ooh, boyfriend alert," in that sing-song tone. Jess's eyes flicked over, landed on me. For a half-second she looked guilty, panicked. I might have been projecting. Then she plastered on a smile and walked over, the group peeling off toward the door. Tom hung back a little, fiddling with his phone. "Hey," she said brightly, as if everything was normal. "What are you doing here?" "I brought food," I said, holding up the bag. "Figured we could celebrate you being a marketing genius." Her smile dimmed just a fraction. She glanced down at the bag, then at the flowers, then over her shoulder toward where Tom was standing. "You shouldn't have," she said. My eyes went to the card tucked into the bouquet. It was angled toward me now, in big, loopy writing, "To the star of the show, couldn't have done it without you. T." My stomach lurched. I pointed at the flowers before my brain could talk me out of it. "Who are those from?" She shifted her grip as if shielding them. "The team," she said quickly, "like a congratulations thing, office tradition." "Really?" I said, "because that card looks like one name." We stood there, this weird little bubble of tension in the bright lobby. People went around us, the automatic doors hissed open and closed. Someone laughed at some joke nearby. "Matt," she said, her voice dropping, "not here." "Why not here?" I asked. "What's wrong with here?" Tom chose that exact moment to look up and catch my eye. He gave me this little nod, the kind of nod men give each other when they've been told they're in the same category of important male in this woman's life. I didn't nod back. He hesitated, then said to Jess, "I'm gonna head off, but call me later." "Later?" "Sure," she said, not looking at him. "Night, Tom." He walked out. My eyes tracked him automatically. The way he stuck his hands in his pockets, how comfortable he looked leaving this building like it was an extension of his house. "Can we talk outside?" she hissed. "Please." We went out and down the side of the building, away from the main entrance. There's a little alcove near the loading dock, concrete and a couple of stray cigarette butts. It wasn't romantic, but at least it was private. "Okay," I said, "explain." She shifted the flowers from one hand to the other. Up close they smelled overpowering, that heavy sweet scent that clings. "You're making this weird," she said before I even asked the question. "It's just flowers." "From Tom," I said, with a note saying couldn't have done it without you. "Because we worked on the pitch together," she said, slow like I was a bit dense. "He was the account lead, I was the marketing lead. It was a team effort, he's just extra." "Right," I said, "and in all your talking about this massive pitch, the one you practiced in my living room, you just forgot to mention he sent you flowers." "I didn't know he was going to." "But he did, to your office, and you didn't think that might be relevant to tell your boyfriend." She huffed, Jesus, Matt, not everything is some big conspiracy. It's a nice gesture, that's all. Literally everyone in the office saw them arrive. It's not like I'm hiding them. You kind of are, I said. The first explanation you gave me was the team. That's because I knew you'd do this, she snapped. Turn it into some jealous meltdown. You've been weird about Tom from the start. I've been weird, I repeated. I could feel my face getting hot. You have a guy who buys you shots, keeps you out all night, calls you, sends you flowers, and I'm the weird one. Her jaw clenched. We are friends, she said. Co-workers. We went through a stressful project together. He wanted to say thank you, that's it. That's not what this feels like, I said. She stared at me, eyes hard, then she said it. Matt, we were never serious. The words hung in the air between us. For a second my brain refused to process them. Excuse me, I said. She shifted her grip on the bouquet again, petals brushing her wrist. We've been having fun, she said, as if explaining something reasonable. We spend time together, we care about each other, but we never had some big we in this forever talk. We're not engaged, we don't live together. Honestly, sometimes it feels like you've built this whole future in your head that we never actually agreed on. I just stared at her. This was the same woman who'd spent Christmas at my parents' last year, who'd cried with me when my granddad died, who kept a spare hoodie of mine in her car for emergencies. So what am I to you then? I asked, my voice weirdly calm. You're +1 with optional extras. She flinched. Don't be dramatic, she said. You know that's not what I mean. Spell it out for me, I said, because from where I'm standing I'm your boyfriend. That's what you've called me. That's what you've told my parents I am. If someone had asked me yesterday, are you and Jess serious? I would have said yes, absolutely, we are. She looked away, out toward the street. A tram rattled past, people pressed up against the windows. I just didn't think we were at the meeting the florist at our wedding stage, she muttered. My chest physically hurt. This isn't about a wedding, I said. This is about you minimizing our relationship so you don't have to feel bad about letting some guy cross lines. No lines have been crossed, she insisted, but it sounded less sure now. Staying out all night, sleeping at softs, not texting me back, sharing God knows what with this dude, and now flowers that you tried to pass off as from the team, but yeah, no, totally normal. You're twisting things, she said. You're making it all sound so sinister. It's not. Then why do I feel like shit? I asked. She stared at the ground. A petal fell off one of the roses and landed near her shoe. She nudged it with her toe. Maybe because you need to work on your insecurity, she said quietly. That one landed like a punch. It's my sore spot. I know I can be anxious. I know I overthink, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. We left it there, or rather she walked off with the flowers still in her hand, saying she needed to go debrief with the others, and could we talk later when we're both calmer. I went back to my car with a bag of rapidly cooling pad see ew and massaman curry, and the worst feeling I've had in my life. That night back at my place I couldn't eat. I tried. Took 2 bites, tasted cardboard, put the fork down. My brain kept replaying we were never serious on a loop. I pulled up our text history like an idiot, scrolling back through months of goodnight, love you, of silly memes, of her sending photos of outfits asking which she should wear to things. Was I making up seriousness where there was none? Had I been reading I love you as I love you while she meant ilu lol? I thought about all the times she'd introduced me as her boyfriend, the weekend we spent painting her bedroom, how she'd once said, half asleep, when we have kids, we're never buying them glow-in-the-dark stars because they'll just peel the paint off, and I'd laughed and said, good call. That's not casual stuff. The longer I sat with it, the more angry I got, not just at her, but at myself, at how quickly I'd started doubting my own reality because she'd reframed it in a sentence. Around 10 p.m. I texted her, are we going to talk about tonight or pretend it didn't happen? She replied slowly, I'm tired, can we talk tomorrow? I stared at the screen. No, I wrote, I'm not sleeping after being told our relationship was never serious. Typing dots, disappearing, typing again, finally call. I called, she answered on the second ring. She sounded exhausted. Look, she said before I could speak, I shouldn't have said it like that, it came out wrong. How did you mean it? I asked. She sighed, I meant, we never define things as heavily as you seem to have in your head. We haven't talked about timelines, about rings, about moving in. I've been keeping it light. You met my parents, I said. You came to my cousin's wedding as my date. We've been together for 2 years, Jess. I know, she said softly, and I care about you, a lot, but when you get like this, when you get intense about stuff, it makes me feel suffocated. You getting flowers from a guy who clearly has feelings for you is stuff. He's just excited about the project, she said. He's flirty with everyone, that's who he is. Are you flirty with him? Silence. Jess. A bit, she admitted. It's harmless, it boosts my ego, it doesn't mean I want to marry him. It means you want his attention, I said, at the expense of mine. Another silence. I think we're looking for different things, she said finally. You want something settled, defined, I'm not there. Then why didn't you say that a year ago? I asked. Because I liked being with you, she said. I still do. I just didn't realize you built this whole narrative in your head about next steps. Jesus, Jess, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. It's not a narrative, it's 2 years of my life. Are you honestly telling me you've thought of this as fun, casual the whole time? No, she said quickly. No, that's not fair either. I don't know. I just don't label things in my head the way you do. We went in circles. She kept framing it as a difference in expectations. I kept circling back to the same point. Whatever our expectations, respect should be baseline, and hiding the depth of her involvement with Tom didn't feel respectful. Over the next week, we tried to make things normal. We still saw each other, still watched shows, still had sex, but it all felt thinner. Every time her phone lit up, my eyes went to it. Every time she mentioned work drinks, my brain filled in Tom. One night after she fell asleep on my couch, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. I stared at it. My heart was pounding. I hated myself for even considering it, but I picked it up. I didn't go rifling through everything. I just looked at the notification that had appeared on the lock screen. Tom, thinking about you today, that dress yesterday. No context, no as a friend. My vision blurred for a second. I put the phone down exactly where it had been and went to the kitchen because I felt like I might throw up. The next day I told her I needed a break. We met in a park halfway between our places. It was one of those 2 bright autumn afternoons, kids on scooters, dogs chasing balls. It felt almost obscene to be having that conversation in that setting. I can't do this, I said, gesturing vaguely between us. Not while you're letting him talk to you like that. He's just messing around, she said. Then tell him to stop, I said. She looked at me, jaw set. I don't want to police my friendships to make you feel better, she said. It's not policing, I said. It's boundaries. If the roles were reversed and some woman from my office was texting me that way, you'd lose it. Probably, she said, but that's my issue. I stared at her. A kid's balloon floated up into the sky behind her, bright red against the blue. So that's it, I asked. You're not willing to put any limits around this because, what, it feels good. She didn't answer. Okay, I said quietly, then I think we want different things. She shrugged, this tiny, helpless motion. Maybe we always did, she said, we just didn't admit it. Breaking up after a long relationship is weird. It's not one clean slice, it's 100 little cuts, cancelling the shared Spotify, sorting out which of us gets what from the kitchen, unfollowing each other's siblings. Our friends had mixed reactions. My mates mostly went straight to she's trash, you're better off. Her friends, from what I hear, got her version, that we'd been seeing each other for a couple of years but I'd pushed for more, that she never promised anything, that I freaked out over flowers. I know this because one of her friends, who I'm still cool with, told me, shaking her head. She's minimissing, she said, but she's also always been like this. She likes things easy until they're not. Did I misread it? I asked. Were we really never serious? She looked at me like I'd grown another head. Matt, she cried on my couch for 3 days when you had that fight about moving in, she said. She loved you, she just also loved the attention. And she couldn't admit that because then she'd have to admit she was being selfish. I'm not going to pretend I handled the breakup gracefully. I drunk texted her twice. Once something pathetic like miss you, once something angrier about hope the flowers were worth it. She didn't reply to either. Eventually I blocked her number, not because she was harassing me, but because staring at the empty chat was like poking a bruise. It's been a couple of months now. I still see her sometimes on social media despite my best efforts to avoid it. Mutual friends posting group pics where she's in the background, holding a drink, laughing. Once, in a boomerang from a rooftop bar, I saw the edge of a bouquet on a table and my stomach clenched before I told myself it could be anyone's. I don't know what's going on with her and Tom. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. She could be engaged to him by next year or complaining about some new guy who won't commit. That's her life to live. What I keep coming back to is this, the way she held those flowers in that lobby, the way the card was angled just so, the way she said we were never serious to protect herself from feeling like the bad guy. I've realized something ugly about myself in all this. I was so desperate not to be jealous or controlling that I ignored my own discomfort until it exploded. I overcorrected away from toxic masculinity straight into doormat. I let someone else define the seriousness of my feelings after the fact. If you're reading this and you're in a relationship where someone tells you we're not serious, right when it becomes convenient for them, after they've met your family, after you've given them time and energy and love, please know that your sense of what it was counts too. You're allowed to say, actually, it was serious to me, and I'm allowed to grieve it like a real loss. I don't know when I'll date again. Right now, the idea of doing the whole "what's your favorite movie" dance with a stranger makes me want to lie down. I'm focusing on my own stuff, gym, work, not eating an entire pizza alone and calling it self-care. But I do know this, the next time I'm with someone, I'm making sure we are on the same page long before anyone else sends them flowers. I'm not going to wait until I'm standing in a lobby, watching them clutch a bouquet from someone else, to find out whether we were serious.